Welcome to sunny side of San Diego.
It's the greatest city in the history of mankind. It's a fact.
Two local San Diegans that look at obstacles as an opportunity for growth.
If you don't fail, you're not even trying.
Michael Carini is the Acrylic Alchemist.
You can call me CEO
of Carini Arts. And Vicente, Vinnie, Enriquez.
No one could do it better.
The team lead of the Enriquez group.
Ride with us.
Hi, you sunny San Diego, sunny side of San Diego listeners. My name is Vinnie, and my co-host over here is Carini. Something we wanted to get into is something that we've talked about a couple times, something that's really close to Michael's heart, is Deanne Hastings. It's well, you're going to tell it better. Why don't you jump into it, Michael?
Yes, so I have discussed this before, and I'm going to continue to discuss it and bring it up and use the platform that I have to raise awareness about this. The disappearance of Deanne Hastings, which took place approximately November 3rd, 2015. So over 5 years, and we're coming up on what would have been her birthday, so she's definitely in mind. And I had a couple things happen yesterday that sort of kicked me in the gut. I have these little reminders as if she's telling me that she wants me to help bring closure to her story. For those that aren't familiar with the story, I feel that perhaps diving into some of the blog posts or the previous podcast that we did, because I wanted to cover a different aspect of it today. It's been 5 years, and it seems like what has happened is that it has largely been brushed under the rug, like it's not being discussed, like people have forgotten. I think that it's extremely sad that when a woman has issues or battles with mental health and addiction, that they're not given the same level of love and support as somebody that might fall into mainstream media and be one of those golden stories that everybody stays attached to. I think that when this first happened, that people were attached to the story, and those that love her, of course, were attached to the story. But after a certain period of time, it kind of faded away, and we're left with this mystery, not having any clarity as to what happened, no closure for her friends, no closure for her family, no closure that she deserved for her life.
I mean, can you, for people that haven't heard the previous stories, who was she to you?
I met her in 2010, and she was somebody that had a very enigmatic personality. She had a magnetism to her. She was chaos, but I was right there in the storm with her. And so we had this bond because of things that we experienced, things that we went through together, sharing stories. I was somebody that was willing to accept her for all that she was and loved her, not despite it, but because of it. I loved all that she was, and I loved her openness to me. And I could tell when she was playing a character and when she wasn't, and she was willing to be more vulnerable and more honest with me than she was with others after a certain period of time, because she realized that I was somebody that really did genuinely care and somebody that might stick around and be there for her. And at one point she gave me the title Wings, and she's the reason that I have them tattooed on my back. And she was somebody that I called a muse, and I have very rarely, if ever, used that term over the course of my life, my career as an artist. But she found her way into a number of my paintings, and to a number of my stories, into a number of my best stories. And they weren't my best stories because of me. They were my best stories because of her, I think.
I mean, from the story that you've relayed to me and how much, I mean, I've taken over the time of you telling this, right? She always seemed like a free spirit. She would fly off, come back, fly off, come back, fly off. And the way I hear the story from you, it seems like there was definitely a bond between you, but it seems like sometimes when you tell it, that it almost feels like it was a stronger relationship for you to her than her to, because you would rather her be there with you all time long, but she was unable to be by your side all the time. She had to leave and for a long period of time to come back. I mean, was that hard? Am I reading that wrong, or?
She chose to leave, and that was sort of the nature of the pull. And yeah, perhaps there was a quality to it that wasn't the healthiest of relationships, because of that. And I understood that. And I recognized the chaos that she at times was, and so did she. There were times that I'd pick her up from the hospital or from a bad situation. I'd be the person that she'd fly to if she had a bad situation, or I'd fly to her, and it happened a number of times. And this last time, I was aware that there was a situation going on behind the scenes, and she had reached out to me, and I could tell by her reaching out to me that it was one of those situations where she was either going to come to me or I was going to come to her. And then something happened, and she didn't. And when she didn't, and a certain period of time passed, I knew that the worst had probably happened. And even though there has been no closure, there has been no clarity, and I have had to withhold on some of my suspicions, which I will continue to do for particular reasons of not implicating certain people. But I think that she was murdered. And I think that I know the person that is responsible. And I have had, through my sharing of stories and through my blog posts and through my reach, I have had friends of hers that have taken a deeper dive into her story, tried to find out more information, that have come across what I've had to say about it. And they've reached out to me, and they've shared their stories. And they've shared not just their stories of their time with her in their life, but their stories during this specific period, this period where she disappeared and vanished. And all of these people that have shared their stories, some that are willing to share them, some that are not, out of fear, and they've expressed their reasons for their fear, they all point in a particular direction. And I've presented these stories to the Spokane Police Department, to the detective that I believe is in charge of this, and I've laid the information on the doorstep, hoping that it would lead to something would happen. And I'm not going to accuse anybody or say that nothing is happening, but I have not seen anything happening since I presented the information. And so I feel like it's sort of fallen on a doorstep and just been left. And so I don't know if there's more going on here, but I've reached that point after watching so many movies over the course of the past couple of years with these bizarre situations and circumstances of people disappearing. And I have to wonder if there's something more to the story, something more going on than even I know.
Why do you think it's so important to you to keep telling the story? I mean, this is something we had a previous episode where we talked about one of our classmates that passed away, and I know it's a different kind of relationship, and there was a bond that you had and we had just simply as classmates, right? I know this is a stronger bond that you had for her. Why do you think keep bringing the story up, keep basically kind of telling your side of it is so important to you?
I know that if something had happened to me or somebody else that I love, I would want somebody to share that story, to keep the spirit of that person alive, to bring them the closure that they deserve, to give them that respect. And I think that she deserves more than what she's been given. And the fact that 5 years later, I don't see or hear a lot of people still talking about it. I have reached out to most of the reporters and most of the people that did stories on her in the past. And the last time I did, I reached out to a hand of them by email. I didn't get a response. Now, I don't know if my emails didn't go through or what's happening, but when you care about somebody and you feel that they were done wrong, there's this sense of duty and responsibility to do whatever I can for however long I need to until there's that peace, whatever peace may come. For not really for me, because I can live with whatever, I can deal with whatever, I'll shoulder it. But her family definitely deserves more. Her kids deserve more. And I think that for other people at any period of time to give up on her is just not acceptable. And that's why I will continue to tell the story and continue to use my platform and continue to raise awareness, because this didn't just happen to her. This happens to other people too. Women that disappear and people just forget because they don't come on the 10 o'clock news or the 5 o'clock news or whatever the prime time is. If they don't fit the mold that keeps that story alive, there's this moment of, oh, this happened, and then just poof, it's gone. And she deserves better than that.
How would you describe your relationship with her? I mean, from our talks, right? it felt like it was a love relationship. Was it just strictly a friendship, platonic? I mean, are you able to talk about that?
It was different things at different times. There were times that she would go off and I knew that she was in another relationship. And if she was, I was happy for her. She was happy. I just wanted her to be happy. So it wasn't that I demanded or expected a certain thing from her. I allowed her to be who she was. And I think that's the reason that she would come back. She knew that I was a safe place. And I think that because she found me as a safe place, she also didn't see me as a place that she could stay. Because when you have that type of chaos within you, and anybody that has that type of chaos within them, they understand. Sometimes you feel uncomfortable when you're comfortable because you don't know it. You're not used to it. It's not home. And so you need that chaos. You need something different. And so she would do what she did and she'd leave. She'd disappear for periods of time. There were times that she actually would disappear for a week or two at a time. And there was a previous time where she was listed as a missing person. And so that's another reason that I think that her situation is not taken as seriously as it should be, because she had a history of erratic behavior, of doing things like this. But she would disappear for a week, for 2 weeks. It would get longer and longer, but I think it ended up being just a couple weeks at most. But she was always with somebody. There was always some sign that she was out there, that something was happening. But this time felt different very early on. And I knew in my heart, knowing her, that it was most likely that she had been killed.
What do you, if you could go back, and I know we don't have a time machine, we don't have anything like that, but if you go back, is there anything that you wish you would have done differently, changed, said something, done something?
She knew that I would always be there for her, and that's why she called me her wing. She always talked to me about St. Michael and how I was willing to do the hard thing if it was the right thing. And she knew that I would always be there for her. And so I think that's why she did reach out shortly before she disappeared. She made me somewhat aware of her situation, and she basically planted the seed that she was going to be coming, or that I would need to come to her. And I was prepared for that. But at the same time, I was trying to work on building healthier relationships. And so I didn't push her in the way that I had in the past. In the past, I would have said, hey, you need to come here, or hey, I'm going to come there. And I didn't push her this time. I kind of just let her make the decision. And if I could go back, I would have done the unhealthy thing. I would have pushed her. But I didn't. And so I do have to always ask, hey, if I had pushed her and gotten her out of that situation, if I had gotten her here, or if I had gone there, would things have gone differently? And I feel to some extent that there's a great possibility that they would have.
So I haven't brought this up before, and we've talked about this a couple times with her. The reason why I ask a lot of these questions is I look at it and not with the passing part, but with everything else, both the relationship that you had with that person. There was a person in my life, right, that we dated for a short while, a long time ago. I had a strong fascination. Like, we basically separated, but then I wanted that person back, and I weighed that person towards all the other relationships that I had, right? And that person became bigger than life, right? Yet over time, I started to understand that person wasn't right for me, right? It was just always, and I always felt, right, looking back on it, that they basically used my caring for them, right? Even though they never did anything, but they used my caring safe zone. So if they needed basically a pick me up, they knew where to get a hold of me or how to get a hold of me, and we would talk, blah blah, and they would feel, I think it almost felt like they felt a little better about themselves or what was going on, right? And so when you talk about basically before all this happened, I look at how I had that relationship with that other person, and how I was almost abusing myself a little bit, because I was allowing them to take advantage of who I was, right? I don't know if that's a case with what happened here. And I know it was a really, they weren't allowed to probably open up fully when I was earlier on in it, when I was really focused on them, because I would try to find a way to get in there. And over time, I was like, what am I doing? Why am I going after something that's not really there? And then when I finally allowed myself to kind of walk away right from it and get better with myself, I became a lot better. I felt like a person. Is there any kind of resemblance to that, or do you see anything like that, or no?
There absolutely was, if I'm being honest. But I was aware of it and I understood it, and it was an unconditional love. There were no boundaries. So knowing that, I still loved her, and I understood why she did that. I understood why she was the way she was, why she did the things that she did. And so if you have the capacity to understand somebody, you have the capacity to still love them through that.
Yeah.
And so I was okay with it. Yeah, I took a little bit of the brunt on some things, but I put myself in that situation. I'm responsible for that. I made that decision, and so I accepted everything that came with it. And I also accept the responsibility and the responsibilities that came with the title that she gave me of Wings. And so it basically put me in a position where I am the person that is going to have to do what needs to be done. And that if I'm the only person speaking up, then I will be the last person speaking up about this because of what she placed upon me. I accepted that. And so now moving forward, I can remember the good times with her. I still remember the chaos, but I know all the things that she went through and all the things that she was dealing with internally. And I feel that she deserves that peace. And I've shared the story before about how a number of years after her disappearance that I discovered on my floor canvas. So I'm a full-time artist, and I have this canvas that's on the floor. And that canvas on the floor collects paint. And I kept it for about 10 years until I was going to frame it. And then I was going to tell the story of, hey, this floor canvas was what sat beneath my feet for 10 years. And when I flipped it over, I saw that it had her handprints on it. And I had forgotten the last time that she visited me, late 2013, or actually February 2013, so early 2013, that she had put her handprints on that canvas. And so I ended up cutting her handprints out of that canvas and framing them, putting them on my wall. And one day, a couple years ago, this very secure piece on my wall came flying off, put a giant hole in my door. There was no way that this light piece could do that much damage, that it could come off the wall with where it was, as securely fastened as it was. And I felt like that was Deanne reaching out from beyond, telling me, hey, you're supposed to be paying attention to me. You're supposed to be helping me find the closure for my family, for my friends, for those that loved me. And it was so sad on one level, but it also made me laugh because it was like, there's Deanne just coming back when she wants, putting the work on me, telling me what I need to do. And that, I think, sort of encapsulates what we had and who we were. And I didn't care. As long as she was happy, that's all that mattered to me. And so when I thought that she was happy in this last situation that she was in, I was happy for her. And I was okay with it because I loved her that much. And I just wanted her to have her peace. So, and I feel like she was at a point where she was working through all these things and trying to get to a better place. And she was doing better. She was going back to school. She had gotten some of her addictions under control. And she was spending more time with her family. She was doing better.
So again, I never met Deanne. And I mean, I've known you for a good amount of time. We've done these, podcasts. We went to school together. Do you think that there's a deep down, you think that one day she's going to walk back into your life?
No, I know in my heart that she's gone, and I am pretty sure I know what happened to her, and I'm pretty sure that I know who did it to her. And I have shared that. There have been all these questions about who's responsible, what happened. I have presented a story. I have presented information that's not available to the public. I have dropped that at the feet of the Spokane Police Department, and nothing has happened with it. I have heard stories by people that have contacted me that these people were told to leave it the fuck alone, that they were told to leave her story alone and not to dig deeper. Whether or not that's true, I don't know, but it raises serious suspicions for me, and it would confirm some things that I have been led to believe in, certain things that I have put together on my own. Now, I'm not a detective. I'm not an expert. All I have is the information that's available to me. Am I subjective in this? Yeah, I probably am. but I think that it takes a subjective person with a level of objectivity, which I believe that I also have, to collect information. And I have had no less than 5 people contact me that have said, hey, I didn't feel comfortable contacting the police, but I have this information. And they said, I think that this person did it, and I think that this is what happened. And all of these people that are not connected, aside from their relationship to her, but they're not directly connected to each other, it all points in the same direction. It all points to the same exact thing. And I can't say exactly what that is because I don't want that information to be out there for this person to know. And I don't want to make any accusations until I have proof, because I don't believe that that would be fair to this person either. Even though I have my suspicions, I still don't think it would be fair to do that. But this information has been collected. It has been presented. And so I also use my platform in the hope that I can continue sharing the story until it gets across the ears and the eyes of somebody that can take the information that I have and do something with this information. Somebody that's willing to do it. Because I've had private investigators that have seen my work at music festivals, and they've connected to the paintings that I've had there that were about Deanne, and they've talked to me and said, hey, I'm going to help you out. I present them with the information, nothing done. It just keeps getting dropped. People keep dropping the ball. People don't follow through. Nothing's being done. And so I'm going to, without specifically calling anybody out, say people have dropped the ball on this. Nothing is getting done. Something should be done. There is information. There is new information. And nothing is happening with the information.
Why don't you start putting a GoFundMe thing or something like that, with the funds going towards paying for a private investigator to look into this?
The GoFundMe thing isn't really my area of expertise, and the truth is that I would just fund it myself if need be. So I'm not concerned.
Yeah, but there's people listening right now that probably, heard the story so many times from you. They would, be willing to give $5, $1, to the cause, and then use that money to pay for a private investigator to look into it.
I think that they've had one. I think her brother has had one at one point, or may still. So that may already be a thing. So the other thing is I'm trying to respectfully navigate this without adding to the pain that her family is feeling. And yesterday, actually, her son added me on Facebook, and her son had messaged me a while ago about the blog post that I wrote about her, and he wanted to talk to me, and I messaged him back, but I didn't hear back. So I don't know if he didn't get my email, or maybe there was an issue with that, but he added me on Facebook yesterday. And so the fact that you and I had this talk scheduled, and then the day before her son adds me, and then another mutual former friend of ours messaged me yesterday and said, hey, my daughter just reconnected with her daughter. Isn't that strange? And I said, you know what else is strange? Her son just added me on Facebook, and I'm doing a podcast on her tomorrow. So it seems like the universe is putting the energy together again, because I think that it is pulling for her to have that closure that she deserves for that piece. And I know that the truth is that when we get answers, the answers are probably going to be devastating. But I think that it's important for that truth to come out, and for the people responsible to be held responsible and accountable for what I believe happened. And we will find out what happened. If it's the last thing I do with my dying breath, we will find out what happened to her.
If you guys have, know anything about it, or if you have any, if you came across her, we don't know who this podcast is reaching. But if you know anything about Deanne Hastings, where was she last seen?
I believe it was in Spokane, was the last sighting of Deanne, and it listed it as November 3rd, November 4th. I don't know specifically, but I think that the specific time frame is somewhat irrelevant. I think that there is substantial information pointing in a very specific direction that is not the direction or the directions that were previously looked at. I think that there were a few people that came across her in her final hours that it was portrayed that they might have had involvement, but I don't think that those people had involvement. The information that I have from a number of sources does not point in that direction. Was that a cover-up? I don't know. Is it possible that it was a cover-up? I think so. Is this a conspiracy theory? I don't believe so, but everything seems like a conspiracy theory until it's proven wrong. And so that's the truth of the matter, is that there's a lot of lack of clarity. but there is a lot of information from numerous sources that have all come to me from my blog posts, from my stories, and reach out and said, hey, I didn't feel uncomfortable, or I didn't feel comfortable sharing this information publicly, but I want to share this with you. And they don't know the information that I've heard from these other sources. And so when they all very specifically point in one direction and they call out this one person and share very specific information that adds another piece to the puzzle, I feel like, yes, one of these pieces of information would have not been sufficient, but I feel like the collection of numerous pieces, we're talking about at least half a dozen pieces now, that information collectively provides enough information for this to be reopened, reinvestigated, to have the story opened up. There is information of possible evidence and the location of that evidence, and it's not being acted upon. They're not going after this evidence. They're choosing not to go after this evidence, and I want to know why. If we're not going to get closure to her story, I want to know why the fuck they're not going after this information, this evidence.
Again, if you're listening and you want to, if you have any kind of feedback, if you have any evidence, if you know someone that's a private investigator or whatnot, I mean, please feel free to reach out to myself or Michael. Again, I appreciate you listening. If you have someone in your life that maybe you've gone through some stuff and some kind of uncertainty, I mean, maybe there's a chance that we can get on there and share the story. I know this one right here is really passionate to Michael, because I mean, from every time we talked, you can tell how much love he had for her and how much unknown that's going on right there. So reach out. I mean, we'd love to hear feedback, insight, whatever it could be. If you've gone through something similar to this, please reach out to. Again, I mean, this podcast, yes, we're both, I mean, from San Diego, or I mean, for the most of our life. I was born in San Diego. Michael came here at a young age. So we are hyper-focused in San Diego. And we try to bring a positive mindset to about every topic that we talk about, and show it through our eyes. And, you know, Michael is an artist. I'm in the real estate field. We have two different ways of looking at things, yet we both try to look at it in a positive way. So please subscribe, please share, tell your friends, and we'd love to grow this platform out more and go from there.
And if there is a detective out there, a private investigator, a journalist, somebody that's covered her before on a podcast or a story, that can reach out to me, I will be happy to do what I can to bring the story to light. But I need more voices for her. I need more advocates for her. And if you've had an experience where you have information and you don't feel comfortable going to somebody else, please bring the information, or consider bringing the information to me, so that I can try to find a way to deal with it, to do something with it, even if we don't mention your name or bring your identity to light. I just need information. That's all I'm looking for right now, and I'm looking for voices for her, because she deserves to be heard.
Thank you guys for listening. If you're watching us live, thank you for watching us live. If you're listening to a later date, thank you for subscribing. Wish you guys a great rest of your day. Bye, everyone.